Hello and welcome to Focus Talk number 11 of 2017. Borrowing Sense Part 1. That most, if not all of us, have incurred debt before is not a far-fetched allegation. Once in a while, you have fallen short of funds for one thing or the other, and you have called on your friends, relatives, sharks, or formal financial institutions to bail you out. It is likely that you have once approached your local shop for a packet of maize flour, to be repaid as soon as your payday comes, or the mama mboga, the greengrocer, for vegetables on credit, or your local pub for a drink when you felt that your throat was cracking and they scribbled your name in a credit book. Maybe you requested for airtime advance from your service provider, or required a mobile phone-based loan, or maybe you engaged a private tutor for your child and promised to pay him at the end of the month. Either way, you incurred debt. In this work, I restrict these lessons to debts that have a financial repayment implication. The world of debts is wide and multifaceted. Some debts are for real cash, repayable with real cash, while others are repayable in kind. Some debts are for valuable items borrowed to be returned with some monetary fee or to be repaid in monetary terms altogether. Some debts come at a cost while others do not. Some debts have left people smiling while others have left people cursing. Some debts have given life while others have caused death. Debt is like a loaded gun. The direction you point the nozzle determines whether you become powerful or nothing. If you use debt, you smile, but if you misuse and abuse it, you frown. Whether you smile whenever debt is mentioned due to how you have benefited from it before, or you experience chills down your spine due to where it has landed you, the hard truth is that debt is here to stay. Those who master its usage leverage on it and grow exponentially. Matters wealth. I'm a strong believer in the argument that while the poor trade carefully, avoid debts and become super savers, the wealthy scramble to borrow the savings of the poor to multiply their wealth. That aside, my main concern is and has always been to demystify prudent ways of handling debt, to reap maximally from it and to avoid getting you into trouble. Debt of whichever magnitude, of whatever nature, and whichever source has both the potential of building you and causing you trouble. It depends on where the gun is pointed. There are certain factors that many people fail to put into account before getting into debt. In most cases, at that time, the only thing that matters is how to get the money. Everything else is usually relegated to the rear. This is detrimental, to say the least. One of the most important factors to consider before borrowing is why you want to borrow. Prudent borrowing is guided by purpose. The reason for your borrowing determines a lot of things. Some reasons leave you a better person while others otherwise. You need to always analyze why you need to borrow. Personal borrowing is a personal decision. Only you know why you are borrowing. Many people have found themselves in a debt crisis because their reasons for borrowing were not right or were not adhered to. Many borrowers cite borrowing reasons for the sake of compliance with the lender's conditions, when deep within them, they know why they are borrowing. Some of the reasons often cited include home improvement, education, medical emergency, investment, and house construction. Some of the reasons that become actual and which are rarely cited include betting, partying, payment of other loans, or its interest, and flossing. The reason for borrowing determines how much to borrow. A lot of people are in trouble because they borrow on ability instead of borrowing on purpose. They borrow 10,000 shillings, for instance, even if their need is for 5,000 shillings, just because they qualify to borrow 10,000 shillings. You need to avoid this pitfall. The reason for borrowing also determines when to borrow. If it's an emergency, borrowing will be now. Other reasons may allow for some time. The same reason determines where to borrow from. If you're borrowing to purchase a home, for instance, it will be hilarious for you to borrow from a Shylock. Therefore, next time you want to borrow, take time to analyze why you are borrowing and why you must borrow. Because when you do this, you can do better. This is Roy Okonji, inspiring progressive change.